this may not be a popular answer, but I think that's why the first movers win, because they take that bet and they take that risk.
Today, I'm chatting with Amanda Cole, CMO at Bloomreach, a pioneer in the world of AI-driven marketing and customer experiences for e-commerce. What are they missing out if they're not also focused on real-time data?
Real-time data, it's not just about capturing that data, it's about activating it in real time. And when I say real time, I mean sub-milliseconds. Your consumer is probably on your page in an e-commerce setting under a minute. And so by the time the consumer leaves the site, the display for the promotion is finally ready, but the consumer's left.
What does a strategy look like?
The reality is the rate of innovation is unbelievable. AI is changing so fast. So I think today it's really hard to say there's a really clear way to build an AI strategy. The fastest way that you can adopt some of this is to...
Welcome to Top CMO. I'm chatting with Amanda Cole, CMO at Bloomreach. And Amanda, one of the things that you've been a proponent of is taking historical data and real-time data and combining them together. That's part of what Bloomreach does. But talk about, for anyone listening who just says, oh yeah, we have the purchase history of this customer, we can optimize and personalize for that. What are they missing out if they're not also focused on real-time data?
Yeah, so real time obviously is going to be the best indicator of where your customer is in their journey. And so if you're not able to capture that data and activate it on it in real time, you're going to miss out, specifically thinking of things like purchase activities. I can give you an example. I bought a Fossil watch, and so they would have some historical data on me because I've been a Fossil customer for a very long time. So they should have some idea about my style preferences and metal preferences and even probably store location. But I made a purchase for a Fossil watch, and then I was obviously enrolled into a retargeting program, and I was being targeted with ads for the watch that I'd already purchased for $50 less than I purchased it for. So what real time is so important, because what they could have done instead is immediately switched me from an ad segment for a watch that I'd browsed on their website, but then ultimately purchased, into products that were more closely related to the watch, and my overall purchase experience would have been tremendously better. So real-time data, it's not just about capturing that data, it's about activating it in real time. And when I say real time, I mean sub-milliseconds. Another example that I have of a challenge with real-time data is if you think about wanting to create a personalized offer on your homepage. Your consumer is probably on your page in an e-commerce setting under a minute. Many companies take that much time to actually build a personalized offer, to recognize who a customer is, to find the record in their technology system, to grab the assets and create the offer for the website. And so by the time the consumer leaves the site, the display for the promotion is finally ready, but the consumer's left. And we do that again in sub-milliseconds, because we know that that limited precious time that you have to engage with your consumer in a personalized way is super important. And so using, again, that combination of historical and real-time data is the only way to engage with customers, we think.
Well, and of course, it's been somewhat difficult, just a holiday season in terms of spend. We need to make more of our marketing work more for us. And the issue is, in your examples, you made a purchase, you don't need to be remarketed the same purchase. But of course, in gifting season, things for others, we do all kinds of purchases that may be a one-off thing that we don't need to be retargeted for. We might do something for someone else, something for ourselves. I have two young, 3-year-old and an almost 2-year-old. I do a lot of purchases for them, but sometimes I don't need to be inundated with retargeting of that. Or sometimes my wife asks me to get something for her, and I do it, and then I get inundated with that. So how can, if we kind of have a sort of a blunt marketing instrument, how can, and a CMO is listening to this and they want to fine tune it, and they know that maybe budgets are shrinking, there's more uncertainty. What can they do to start incorporating that, to be more precise with actually understanding someone's intent as well as their past history?
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely need a tool, and there are a lot of great segmentation tools out there, and we partner and integrate with a lot of them, and then we also offer advanced levels of segmentation in our platform as well. But that if you are a regular purchaser for your wife or your children, and we're able to build that profile over time, like we can know that you're actually a male who lives in a certain area, who has product preferences with a brand, but then that there are moments that where you buy off profile type items. And we actually have a customer called Uncommon Goods. Their entire business model is around helping you find really unique gifts. And so when you think about how difficult that can be to make sure that you're surfacing products that are of interest to someone who's trying to buy a gift for someone else, I mean, that really comes down to knowing and understanding the intent of the desired outcome. So the experience that that person is trying to deliver. Our CEO likes to call it the digital seeker, that ultimately you're trying, particularly in gifting, you're seeking to deliver an experience of some kind. You want to make somebody happy. It's a Mother's Day, or it's an apology, maybe, I don't know. But there is a desired outcome. And so really like using the data that we have in your interactions with a site can help us deliver some of that personalization just using intent.
That would be amazing if the ad target, you are trying to apologize to your wife, Ben. This is really going to help you accomplish this. If that was like, wow, they really know my motivation here. Amazing. So how do you, Amanda, how does kind of the rise of generational AI, obviously people are aware of ChatGPT, and the idea is that how do we sort of, engage with that consumer in a way that's not just like ad displays, but maybe there's a more engaging way that we can do this and have personalization in more of a conversational, let's say, setting. How has generational AI changed things, do you think, for marketers, and especially the e-commerce setting?
Yeah, I mean, I think what OpenAI has done geniusly is, even if you don't understand how AI works, you now understand the impact and scale that it can offer you. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of C-suite, a lot of board members who really have never understood or would talk about we need an AI strategy, now demanding, like, I see the value and benefit and scale that AI is going to offer me, and I want to understand how we're going to leverage this new technology as a business in order to deliver better experiences, get better margins, help our employees in many cases. So I mean, AI gives us this incredible, Gen AI in particular, gives us incredible opportunity to crunch large amounts of data and make associations between that data so that it does model and look like a conversation. And so when we're talking about this intent-based shopping, that example that we were saying before, where you're trying to apologize to your wife, now that can very much become a conversation where you initiate and you're even able to express, like, here's things that my wife has liked in the past, or here's, some of the, maybe we need to get off of this analogy, but
You're recently married, so you're. I know you mentioned to me, so you're dropping hints to to your new husband. But yes. But continue.
So in the same way where we would, if you called and you were saying, hey, I would really like some recommendations on how to buy something for somebody that and let me talk you through what their preferences are, colors that they prefer, materials they like, or stores or brands, you can feed that information in a now conversational way without it being a survey or a form. And then the Gen AI can actually crunch that data, which is really, to you, feels like a conversation, build the associations, and then come back with conversational product recommendations that ultimately the vision is help with better conversion and better brand loyalty, for sure.
So what are you seeing in terms of, this notion of, marketing leaders or entire companies having an AI strategy? What are you seeing as like the components of what constitutes a strategy and what constitutes just like tactics? Meaning,
I don't think anybody knows.
Yeah, like there's a lot like saying like, yeah, we want to, use this to help us write blog posts, or we want to, have us. That's a tactic, but what does a strategy look like?
Yeah, I think that I mean, really, I don't think anybody knows yet. I think the most analogous example is probably the internet, or maybe even maybe beyond the internet, but really the access of like how are we going to enable our employees with computers and connectivity, and then obviously Wi-Fi, and then mobile. And that sounds really old for me to say that. I hate it when people are like, before the internet, things were different. But I do think that what we're experiencing is a revolution similar to that, where there's going to be an entirely new way of working and an entirely new set of tools and skills, and the how we do things is going to be very different. And the reality is the rate of innovation is unbelievable. So at least when it felt like we could breathe a little bit as internet and then cloud computing and then mobile, there were several years of trends. AI is changing so fast that the pace of innovation is really difficult to keep up with. So I think today it's really hard to say there's a really clear way to build an AI strategy. But I do think that if you can move beyond what's the reality of the features that are accessible today, like writing a blog, for example, but move way beyond that and say, what's the reality of what this is going to enable for me as a business? And that's where you start building, taking this conversational example, get on that bandwagon and start. We see a lot of companies starting with their employees in the back office, so to speak. I hate using that terminology because we all love our employees and they should be at the front of everything we do. But a lot of companies are trying some of these conversational capabilities internally, so helping their employees find products to recommend faster, or helping their employees do a better job surfacing content to respond to customer inquiries and complaints. And I would say that the fastest way that you can adopt some of this is to just start jumping in and figuring it out.
Well, and I think the thing that, maybe like the rise of the internet taught us is we have to be experimenters. We have to be, there's no you can't go okay, I'm going to go study the book on this. I mean, there are books, you could buy the book, but by the time it's published, it's kind of outdated. So you constantly have to be doing things and trying things. To shift gears, talk about, we've talked about a little bit about what, Bloomreach does, but just for you as a marketer, you're trying to get other businesses to sign up. You're a B2B marketer. What has the environment been like for you in the past year, where you're marketing to businesses, but obviously those businesses are tied into consumer trends, macroeconomic trends, often because they're related to e-commerce?
Yeah, I mean, 2023, we saw a lot of decline and slowdown in actual purchases and conversions. I think collectively across the space, e-commerce in particular had a declining year. And then we also saw a tougher holiday season, as you mentioned at the beginning, for a lot of e-com businesses. I think the reality is we're seeing consumer spend shift from apparel and goods and things like that really into travel and experiences. Post-COVID, people where there was a lot of DIY and home investments, and we saw the increase in comfy clothing so that you can work from home, like I'm wearing today. We're now seeing that reinvestment back into travel and experiences and getting out there. And so there's a shift in consumer spend for sure, but I think we also are continuing to see just uncertainty in the economic climate overall, and that we yet again in the US have another hopefully less interesting presidential election than the last few, not to get political, but that does cause pause and create concern for what are interest rates going to look like and how difficult is capital going to be. And that certainly makes the messaging shift from what was hyper growth for the last couple of years into how do you be efficient? How do you reduce your total cost? How do you become profitable with moderate growth? And what are the tools and things that you need to do to continue to create value for your customers and build those relationships, even if your customers aren't spending as much as they were?
Well, and how are you looking at your overall marketing activities, your marketing budget? Are you consolidating things? Are you reducing spend? Are you the tendency tends to be you reduce spend on things that are not that trackable, that you can't really correlate with a revenue outcome or a profit outcome. That's what people tend to do because they would like to be able to see it and know it means something. Is that what you're doing, or are you approaching things differently?
Yeah, I think this is a really unique opportunity for us to, you're absolutely right. I mean, most people's reactions are to let's consolidate spend to things that are really, really trackable. And I do think that unfortunately leads to a lot of short-term visibility, but long-term loss. So we're actually really investing in helping people understand who Bloomreach is and telling our story and doing it in an emotional way. And we preach this message of creating value for your customers. Don't spam, don't push products that they're not interested in, be genuine, build a relationship with your customers. Don't make it transactional. And we want to do the same thing. So how can we create value, education? How can we tell a story? How can we help? One of the obviously big trends, especially with Gen AI, is personalization. And we've been talking about personalization for so long. I hate even saying the word: right time, right message, right place, all of those things. But Gen AI, it's actually possible now because it's not only creating scale in the access to the data, but at Bloomreach, we combine customer and product data. It's also creating scale and the connectivity to the customer in the multitude of channels that they have. And so as we see this increase in your ability to create value, create loyalty within your customers, and tell really great stories, that's what Bloomreach is doing and what we're encouraging our customers to do as well.
Well, and I think sometimes people miss in terms of the power of generational AI, what the speed of it might mean, aside from just making you more productive. People can understand that, like, okay, if I need to do this slide deck or do this presentation or write this or write that, it can save me some time. It can draft some things for me. And, it's not going to be perfect, but then I can like edit it and it's going to be better. But it's interesting to think about in the application of real-time commerce is one example, but there's many others for what you actually could deliver that creates whole new ways of engaging with consumers or customers that wouldn't even exist. So it's not just like marketing organization or company more efficient in delivering things, which increases margins. It has that, but can you do things that you could never do before because you would never have 4,000 people ready to answer product questions sitting there for personalized answers. You didn't even consider that was a possibility. And now you could actually make 4,000 individual recommendations at this exact moment in time through AI.
Yeah, and it's even beyond just recommendations. I mean, I think e-commerce professionals and merchandisers for sure have gotten really, really good at product recommendations. And merchandisers, even digital merchandisers, they just have this unbelievable inherent capability of understanding really what customers are going to want. I mean, we saw people start to build these sets, and you would go onto a page and it'd be like, here's other things that go with this product that you might be interested in. That's all the genius of merchandisers that are being deployed. But the reason why consumers, we still only see about 15% of spend happen online. After all of this technology and all COVID and all these things, 15% of retail spend happening online is crazy, especially because I love shopping online. But the reason is people want to go touch, feel, see a product. They want to talk to a product expert. They want to ask questions. They want to be made more comfortable with the thing that they're purchasing. And that has not been able to be replicated in an online experience until now. And exactly as you said, you have this product expert that you can scale to thousands of people all at the same time. And that's just a huge win for brands and customers, I think.
To shift gears a little bit, I mean, I know that because of the type of platform that Bloomreach is, you spend time thinking about TikTok. You spend time thinking about ways to sort of embed commerce in platforms that were not originally designed for commerce, but they're becoming more open to it, more within the platform. So what do you see in terms of trends? Where are we headed in just trying to kind of get commerce in more places, in formats that people want to engage with?
Yeah, I mean, as marketers, we've known for a very long time that the closer you can get to the conversion point without creating additional steps, the better your conversion rates are going to be. And so we certainly see the platforms like Meta with Instagram and TikTok recognizing that there's a big revenue opportunity for them. If they can do more than just ads, they can also create that conversion opportunity inside of the ad application itself. So the consumer is not incentivized to buy, and then they go to a landing page and they get disincentivized and they end up not purchasing. And then these platforms also have some rev share components. And I think what this does for consumers, it makes it a lot easier to buy. You can check out anywhere on the platform and in the experience that you're already in without having to be redirected. And who knows if where you're being redirected is a safe site or not. But for the brands, this means that the checkout is happening not on their platform. So they're getting the purchase data, but they're not necessarily getting all of the interactions from the consumer. And so making sure that you're deeply connected into these platforms and their experiences, and you're able to understand who your customer is, obviously with the acceptance of your customer to do that, but that you can understand who your customer is, and regardless of whether they buy on your site or on one of these other experiences, that you have a better informed view of your customer. They have a great experience because they're buying where they want to, and we're all growing as a result.
And what is your advice for someone listening and a CMO who is dealing with do I chase either this shiny platform, or do I chase some kind of new functionality within it? Right? Oh, there's a new way that we can sell things now, or capture leads, or do this, and it's sort of unproven. What is your advice for how much do you sort of chase the cutting edge, bleeding edge, but it can waste time, energy? We're also in an era of a bit of consolidation, so it can just be a waste. Or everyone's looking to be like, oh, the golden era of Facebook or Instagram where you could like run ads and it was like hugely scalable and hugely profitable and not that competitive. Everyone wants that too. So how do you balance those two things of being the first mover and getting some unfair advantage, or just like wasting time with things that aren't really going to drive results that matter to you?
I mean, I think this may not be a popular answer, but I think that's why the first movers win, because they take that bet and they take that risk. And yes, a lot of things are going to fail. I think marketers are really good at failing. I know my history.
There's some marketing shop out there or CMO who's like the master of Vine marketing, right? Who's like, Vine, we own this. We are going to take this all the way. And it's like, yes, oh shoot, yes. Where did Vine go?
Yeah, or Threads. I mean, we saw the very flash pan success of that. But I think that marketers, it is in our DNA to try and fail, and it's really exciting when we get those really clear.
But you think it's worth it? You think it's worth it to try to find?
Absolutely, every time.
What is something that you think we sometimes do on this show, kind of underrated, overrated? What do you think is like, what's underrated right now? Obviously, the rise of generational AI. We can talk about if that's overrated or not. Sounds like you don't think it is, but other things are there underrated. What is underrated in the marketing stack? What are things that we should be doing that we just like, we don't focus on, we should do more of?
I do think email is underrated. I think it has definitely become one of those things where it's like, we got to do it and let's play the volume game and just not be really good at it. So I think really good, really smart email is underrated. And overrated, I mean, mine is a good one, but I do think I love what's happening with content creation, and I particularly love what's happening with micro influencers. And so I'd love to say what's overrated are just the really big name, huge celebrities that that we've historically relied on, because now there's this whole micro influencer community coming up that I hope means a lot more authenticity and connectedness to community rather than just fame and glory, but I could be wrong.
If you had one, a magic wand to be like, you're made the, I don't know, the president of marketing, the governor of marketing, the mayor of marketing, of this thing, like, and you could sort of like inundate your team and other teams with one kind of best practice that you don't have now. No one's going to challenge you. No one has to prove, no one can veto your wand. What would it be?
Oh man, I think at this point it would probably be really good connections, probably. And that sounds like a terrible, stupid answer, but I think we're just like, we've lost, I don't know if it's COVID or it's the way that event marketing has been done, but I think we've kind of lost this community angle of coming together, spending time with each other, being resources for each other in a room where we're building genuine relationships. And I'm part of an association in which I do have this as an opportunity. And there's a couple good friends, CMOs that I've made who I can call on a bat phone at any time and be like, oh my gosh, this happened with my CEO today. Does this happen to you? And it's just refreshing. And I think we've lost a lot of that. So I'd love to see some kind of community element in person come back in a big way. And I would do that with a magic wand.
What are you emphasizing to your team now in this environment? Are there key messages that you're trying to say, that you're trying to get other people on your marketing team? What are those messages?
Yeah, I think that there is an exhaustion with innovation. And so the team feels like, hey, we're constantly trying, we're constantly being innovative. And my message is like, that's what we have to do. And so we'll look at a piece of technology that we've been investing in for 1.5 years, 2 years, and it's finally to a place where it's working, but it's been completely replaced by new technologies. And there's some desire to hang on to it because we put so much time and effort and investment into it rather than shift to something new. But then that means we're just going to be another 1.5 years, 2 years behind the next trend. And so there is a bit of this, like, expect constant innovation to be part of your role and be always looking for those opportunities to be agile and switch. But that's hard because sometimes you just want to come into the office and know exactly what you're doing that day.
Well, that's true. And I think it's interesting to have this moment of sort of great change, maybe powered by generational AI and things that are similar, but also in a consolidation type period, because, everyone sort of has this intrinsic feeling like, hey, there's going to be winners of people who adopt this. We have to invest, yet we have to, are you playing for, to use your example earlier, the short term or the long term? And how do you sort of play for both? And And to do that, you just have to be, smart. And in some ways, if you can get the short term, I think working well, like revenue, profits, it's the fuel that lets you do everything else. So it seems, I don't know if you agree or disagree, but that's the way I feel about it now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can talk about long-term all that I want, but ultimately, if we don't generate revenue, the long-term won't be there. So there certainly has to be a balance with short and long-term. But if you're foundationally doing the things that you need to do for short-term, but investing appropriately in the scale, I mean, the scale absolutely comes from long-term investments, from brand, from storytelling, from building great relationships with customers. They're just not quick and super easy to measure. So a really good balance of both of those things is absolutely important.
Well, thank you so much. Amanda Cole, CMO, Bloomreach. Interesting industry you're in, interesting tool and interesting time. So thank you so much for joining us on Top CMO.
Thanks for having me.